Today on the Becoming Unique podcast, I have such a beautiful soul by the name of Amanda. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for showing up for us, and especially at 4:30 in the morning. Yeah.
It is early here, yes.
Yeah, so you can tell everybody where you're from because they're probably like 4:30 in the morning. Like, yeah, so
Yeah.
let everybody know where you're from.
Okay, so I'm from Brisbane, which is in Queensland, Australia. So, southern part of the hemisphere, it's summer, extremely hot down here.
Mhm.
So, we're not in the cold. We would like a little bit of cool, but we can only get it through air conditioning at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah. Summer, 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 summer.
Yes, and as everyone knows, I am on the northern part of the hemisphere, so I'm in New York City, and it is winter for us right now. So we're at the complete opposites. So
Yeah.
yeah, so before we get today's show started, I would love for you to share with everyone who is Amanda.
Okay. Well, as I just said, I'm Australian and I have grown up in Brisbane. And we had a health food store when I was a kid. So my parents owned one of the first health food stores in Brisbane, and they opened that. That would have been in around 1977. So it was quite a long time ago. And Brisbane was a real sort of country town. It was our city, like it's a capital of our state, but very country town back then. So
Mhm,
it was very unique
mhm,
to have a health food store. And then my dad also started working doing energy healing. So this was very unusual, back then here, um,
mhm,
where most people were still, just having white bread and, normal meat and three veg sort of thing. And we had like multi-grain bread and vitamins and, like doing
mhm.
energy healing and meditation and things like that. So it was a very different upbringing to most people in my age group here. And I was very aware that it was different. So I kind of kept a lot of it to myself. So I didn't really sort of engage in those conversations with friends because I instinctively knew not everybody was meditating and had pyramids in their house and things like that. So um, I've always been able to do energy healing too, like dad. So it's always been a natural thing for me to be in wellness and healing and, brought up with it. But I still, when I started to do healing for other people in a more professional sort of way rather than just, at home, I did actually struggle with doing that and saying that's what I did. So
Mhm.
it's been a bit of a process for me too to heal those things. And so I know I've healed so many things myself. So it's a good way to then connect with other people because you have that compassion. So
Mhm.
um, it's sort of a roundabout way of saying, I really do connect deeply with people because I understand what it's like to shift these big things of, maybe anxiety or uncertainty or things like that. So my whole life has really been around wellness and healing and meditation and, self discovery and all of
Yeah.
that thing. So it's sort of just a way of being for me more than just, a job or something like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful that you got to be that you were born into this lifestyle opposed to a lot of us like me, um, discovering it in our 40s. So
Yeah.
and I think especially in this day and age that we're going into now, a lot of people are discovering that there are other ways out of the matrix, So
Yeah.
uh yeah, so discovering that you can meditate, there's so much power within you that you can eat healthier than what's being told for you to eat. Like there are options. And and you were all about it before you even knew that was going to be trending 40 years later.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. So it was really a real way of life for us. And it was very unusual, but now it's been amazing to actually watch the whole thing unfold
Yeah.
on a bigger level where people are eating multigrain bread, like I was unusual at school
Mm-hmm.
eating multigrain and now it's normal, healthy lunch boxes for kids are really encouraged in schools and things like that. And people meditating instead of thinking it's weird. Like we in our health food store, we had a book on yoga.
Yeah.
Like you didn't see it anywhere back then. It was just a guide on how to do it. And now everybody knows about yoga. So it's been really great to actually watch it unfold
Mm-hmm.
and even excited about where it will go too, and how much more people will know.
Yeah. How do your parents or have an opinion about how the progression has happened since they were like at the starting lines of it?
Well, yes, because my dad worked as an energy healer for 27 years or so. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very different now. And it's really something that we didn't really talk about a lot with other people back then because
Yeah.
they didn't want to know. It
Yeah,
was just
exactly.
weird stuff, that it's, we like you, but keep it to yourself, sort of thing. you know.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to be able to have conversations now. When one of my children brings a friend over and we have conversations now around the dinner table, it's not a hidden thing. Like you can talk about all different sorts of things now and share
Mhm.
it with other people, and that's really nice. I think
Yeah.
for especially for my dad, because not everybody embraced it.
Mhm.
My mum has passed, so um, she passed quite a few years ago now, so she's not here to have those conversations. But she always meditated as well, and was in the health food industry until she passed.
Mhm.
So I'm sure she would have loved seeing, the difference now because it's just changed so much in the last 10 and 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, which is beautiful. It's beautiful that we're going in that direction, collect as a collective. So
absolutely. Yes. Yes.
yeah. So I'm really excited to talk to you today about tuning forks. But before we even get into today's topic, I would love for you to just share what you are grateful for today.
Well, specifically today, I think it is being able to share these things with people, like talk to you and really connect into what I would like to share with people.
Mm-hmm.
It's every opportunity that I have to share and maybe spark something in somebody else, I'm grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
That,
Beautiful.
yeah, I
Yeah.
really love the conversations. So thank you.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you for showing up and being open to share because really that's what life is really about. It's about us sharing. Um, and that's how we expand and grow. We can't just gatekeep everything to ourselves.
Yes, and I think this is such a great opportunity because many years ago it was only local, or you might get in a little newspaper article or something like that. But now we
Yeah,
can just share it with so many more people on such a bigger global scale. It's just
exactly.
fantastic because I feel like my work is not local. I need to share this with so many more people that being able to speak on this sort of level is just amazing. I really love that. That's
Yeah.
what I Yeah, that's what I'm grateful for.
Yeah, this is one of the blessings of the internet and
Yeah.
all that we have in 2023. I guess like with everything in life, there is, the dark and the light of it, the yin and the yang and so on. And this is definitely one of the lighter parts of, the World Wide Web is that we are able to connect with others and share and put high vibrational information out there. So yes, I'm so grateful for being able to be in this opportunity right now.
Yes, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So today's topic are tuning forks, and I'm excited to learn about tuning forks. So can you just tell us the 101? What is tuning forks? What is a tuning fork? Like what is it?
Okay, well, it was first invented in, I think it was 1711 by John Shaw. So he was an English musician and instrument maker in the royal court in England. And there was no real way of tuning instruments that was consistent back then. They did it with wooden um, tuning instruments. And so he made a tuning fork, and that set, like this is an A, this is a B, and people could tune their instruments universally with this. And it did progress and it was improved by others after that, but that's when it first sort of came about.
Mhm,
So we are like an instrument. So our body is our instrument, really. We have a voice, we have electricity, and when we're out of balance, we need tuning up. So a tuning fork has a particular note or a frequency, and when you hit and activate the tuning fork, it has the vibration, and the body sort of moves towards it. So, you always feel different depending on the music that you listen to.
yeah.
So, the body will naturally feel better when you're dancing to a song that you love. A tuning fork is more or less doing the same thing. So, that frequency is tuning the body back to balance.
Mm,
When you have stress or tension in the body, um, it feels sore, and you understand that that's where you hold your stress. So when
mhm,
you use a tuning fork, and if you put it on the body, it will actually help to dissipate the pain in the body. The body
mhm,
will absorb the vibration and come back into more natural alignment. So this
mm,
not only happens in the body, but in that energy field around you. So the biofield, that is like the rings of a tree. It's like a storage system of all your experiences and
mhm,
the emotions that are associated with those experiences.
mhm,
And it will find that in the field, and you can feel it like a little resistance.
mhm.
And once that starts to balance, you can actually move the fork, and it's balancing out the stress held in the field.
Wow.
So, so tuning forks have been around obviously for a long time. They haven't been used in sound therapy or healing for that long, but there's definitely been people using them and researching them for at least 40 years in the realm of sound therapy. So there's
Mhm,
a lot of people have done a lot of research and found that this actually works as a modality. And so
mm,
the research is increasing, and more people are doing papers and um, talking about the benefits of the sound on the body and in the field as well, not
wow.
just from a feel good, but from a health perspective.
Wow.
So, tuning forks are made from aluminium or stainless steel, and there's even crystal tuning forks, so made out of like clear quartz crystal.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's a very delicate instrument, though. You have to be
Yeah.
very careful with those. But yeah, we have tuning forks that are stainless, all of those things. And then we have some that are the coated with 24 karat gold and
mhm,
or a titanium as well. And they're a completely different kind of feel to a tuning fork. So they're a
mhm,
very interesting instrument. So you can use them on the body if they have weights on them. and they're called weighted tuning forks. So
Mm-hmm.
the weights on the end actually help to increase that vibration. And when you put that on the body, the stem, you can feel it really deep. It's really
Mm-hmm.
relaxing. The central nervous system just calms right down. And I find that people are using them, they come home from work and they've been stressed. They might have a corporate job or a government job or something like that. And they
Mm-hmm.
put that fork on the body and they might just talk about what bothered them through the day. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
they're releasing it and then they can get on with their night, at home. They're not carrying that stress to
Mm-hmm.
bed. And that's
Wow.
when there's usually issues with sleep and, people are overthinking about work and they're not
Mm-hmm.
getting rest. And then they get up and they're thinking about that problem again. It's like it's diffusing it, it's cutting
Yeah.
that out and they can get some rest. I find
Wow.
with my clients who are coming in for regular sessions, whether it's in person or via Zoom like this, if
Mm-hmm.
they're using the fork at home as well, we can really shift some big emotional things for them because they're doing that little bit at home as well.
Mm.
It's
Oh,
like taking the charge out of the stress every day. Yeah.
wow. Okay, I love this. Okay, so they basically the tuning fork started hundreds of years ago, basically as someone looking to tune instruments. But now, over the past 40 years, it's been discovered that we can use these instruments on ourselves, or,
Yeah.
for healing the energy within our bodies. And
Yeah.
I love the analogy that you did with about, when you listen to different music, your body feels differently. And your music can take you from high energy dancing, and it can take you to a really dark place sometimes too, depending on how sad the song is and the memories that it brings up. So it
Yeah.
definitely, you can feel the energy shift in the room. And I guess that's why also you go to like stores, or you go to a party, or the elevator. They always have some type of, music, background music happening, because it helps facilitate the energy that is desired for this particular experience. So thank you for that analogy. So we understand that sound is so powerful within our bodies. So it sounds like, from what you were saying, that there are some beautiful benefits behind using these tuning forks. Could you list like all of the benefits? Like, why would someone want to use a tuning fork?
Well, firstly, it's the stress reduction.
Mm,
So, coming home from work or whatever the experience was, and
mm,
activating the fork, just putting it even just on your chest or
mm,
in the solar plexus area, and just somewhere like that, and just feeling that vibration really calms the central nervous system down. That's probably the biggest benefit anyone's going to get, and the thing that people need the most.
mm-hmm.
Because usually, when somebody's had a stressful experience or a trauma,
Yeah.
it's held in the body. So
Mm,
you can do talk therapy or a lot of other things, and it still is sitting here.
mm-hmm.
Over time, the body will get more and more stressed, and then we end up with an injury somewhere, or there's chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia or something like that. And that
Mm-hmm.
is all the stress that's actually stored in the body.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with this, if you're using this on a daily basis, it's
Mm-hmm.
calming the central nervous system down. So
Yeah.
it's not storing that same trauma in the body all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what is leading to so many other things that are going wrong for people. So it's either the physical pain eventually will happen if you stored too much stress in the body,
Mm-hmm.
or people can't sleep properly.
Mm-hmm.
And these stress responses create all these, hormones, stress hormones that come out through the body, which
Mm-hmm.
can then create the inflammation in the body. It
Mm-hmm.
can create, an acne breakout, or,
Mm-hmm.
which is very stressful, because then you can end up with, um, lymph glands that aren't
Yeah.
flowing properly. And there's just so many, the domino effect from stress is huge. And
Mm-hmm.
that just, you know, people might get migraines or headaches, or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
for women, there might be exacerbated menstrual pains and things like that, because the body is so full of inflammation and stress.
Yeah.
So it's really unlimited in the ways in which it can help you.
Yeah.
And one of the really good benefits with using it on a daily basis and talking about what it has stressed you is you don't need to go anywhere and do it. You could
Mm-hmm.
do that in the privacy of your bedroom. If you've got a family and you need some space, you could go to the bathroom, or, just actually saying it out loud,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
allowing the vibration of the tuning fork. It's almost like it's dissipating the stress that you're expressing. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, if you can imagine the voice is coming out in this frequency and it's meeting the frequency of the tuning fork, it's just dissipating the stress. So
Mm.
as you're saying it, it's just it's just going out. And
Yeah.
really, our voicing and our speaking is probably one of our biggest healings,
Mm-hmm.
when we can get those emotions out of the body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like stress is the core reasoning behind it, but then through stress all of these other elements may come out of that. So, any of us that's suffering from any type of stress, or it would be a good idea to think about adding tuning forks into our lives.
Yes, absolutely.
Like,
Because when you're stressed, it is usually because you feel like you're not heard,
mm,
or you can't say something because, you know, people pleasing is a big thing on the planet. And I put my hand up for that too. Or I was always a people pleaser, and not feeling like you can actually be worthy of things. So
mm,
there's all these things underneath the stress as well,
mm-hmm,
that bring us to that stressed state. It's like we feel like we don't have choice, or circumstances can't change, or these relationships have these patterns that we can't break.
mm-hmm,
And usually that is because we've had these experiences in the past of where we're not heard, or we can't speak what we need to. And then, like I said before, that's actually sitting in our field, in this
mm,
energy field around us. And that has a certain vibration to it, a certain frequency.
mm-hmm.
And that acts like a magnet. And
Yeah,
then we keep having more experiences that are the same.
keeps piling
And
up.
then, yep. And then you develop this way of thinking of like, oh, of course that's going to happen. That always happens to me. And then that becomes your reality. But also, it's this magnet sitting in the field that keeps attracting it. So
Mm-hmm.
when we are dissipating the charge around this emotion in the field, that's why it can then change people's experiences, because that magnet isn't there all the time,
Yeah,
attracting those same experiences. So it might look different on the outside, but the feeling is the same. That
yeah,
disempowered feeling, or I'm not listened to, or, I'm not worthy of love, or whatever that core
mm-hmm.
wound is, it will keep attracting because it's sitting in your field. But when we change our frequency, then we're open to new experiences. And
Yeah,
then that changes our stress levels, because we're not constantly waiting for that thing to happen again.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so, it sounds like all of us may need a tuning fork. Do you happen to have any close by, so the people that are visually watching this, they can see what they look like? Um,
I do. I'll probably need to just jump up.
Yeah, I can
Oh
pause
no,
it.
here it is.
Yeah.
I thought I would have one close, and I do. Okay, so this is an unweighted fork.
Unweighted fork. Yes.
Yeah, so the weighted forks have weights here on each
Mhm.
end. And I don't think I have one in this room, but yeah, this one is what you would use in the field. So you would just lightly activate it. So,
When you say in the field, what does that mean?
oh, okay. So that's our energy field around the body. So
Okay.
that's around 5 feet out from you everywhere. So when it feels like people are too close, like, oh, they're invading my space, they're really in your field. You can really feel other people's energy in your
Yeah,
field.
I feel like that a lot. I feel like I always step back from people
Yeah.
because I feel like I can't I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I feel like I feel energy too much. So I always
Yes.
it's just a habit with me. I just always someone walks closer to me, I walk a step back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it, but I know everyone is different and that's just my thing. But I feel like I collect their energy very quickly. And so I just always seem to step back. So yeah, so and I think the energy field is it supposed to be about 6 feet around you? That's your
Yeah.
energy field?
Yeah. 5 to 6 feet, depending on the person.
Mm-hmm.
And you will feel people, especially when they have a lot of probably what you would call low frequency,
Yeah.
where there might be a lot of anger, resentment, jealousy, guilt too. Guilt and shame are
Mm-hmm.
really, really, really low frequency emotions as well. So when people have a lot of that, and then they start to become really physically unwell, you
Mm-hmm.
can really feel them. You can
Yeah.
feel that it's like really big energies. And sometimes it can actually make you feel sick
Yeah.
also. So noticing whether you feel different in temperature, you might feel colder or you might start sweating
Mm-hmm.
around people, or you feel nauseous, or you might start getting a headache, or you even just feel uncomfortable, like I really need to leave this space.
Yeah.
There's signs that you are picking up on other people's energy and it's not healthy for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the field when I
That's
talk
the
about
field.
the field.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So we would use this tuning fork and we start either really close to the body, and then
Mm-hmm.
we just move the fork away from the body. So it's like you're moving it through your field, or you can start at the edge of the field and come into the body.
Now, when you first said field, when I interrupted you, you tapped your wrist. Now, when you come in close to the body, are you tapping yourself and then pulling away?
Yeah, so usually you'd use a an activator, um, but you can just do it on your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just moving it like this.
Away.
Yeah. So different areas, we have energy centers, so chakras in the body,
Mm-hmm.
and they all have a different meaning too. So, if you've had a lot of heartache, you might have some energy that needs to really be moved in that heart space.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our physical heart. We have an area here just below the collarbones, which is called the high heart.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people store some trauma in there. We have our heart energy center. And I found through tuning so many people that there's sometimes this little space just to the left of this energy center, the heart center. And it's like a little storage space where heartache is put because it's so painful.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like this feeling of it's too much. So you create another space for
Mm-hmm.
these feelings to go into. And I have found that in that space is a lot of heartache when it's just, when it really is heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
not just sadness, but it's like your heart is breaking.
Yeah.
So there can be these little places in the body where emotions sit. And when you're using the fork in the field or on the body, it's allowing that to dissipate. It's allowing
Mm.
it to reduce in its charge. So
Mm.
we're not changing people's memories or the lessons that they've learnt from the experience. It's just balancing the emotions so they don't not feeling it in their body so much. It's not like storing in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now you're a practitioner, so you facilitate the healing practices of using the tuning forks.
Yeah.
If someone was to do a session with you, how long is a session? And also, as a practitioner, are you able to feel where there's stuck energy? Like, okay, let me stay in this area a little bit more. Or do they let you know, like, okay, I'm working with heartache, I'm working with this, I'm working with that, and then you focus on that area? How does that look like a session?
Okay, so a session is generally around an hour. You
Mm-hmm.
can have them longer for an hour or two if you need to. Uh, so when somebody starts, so I would say to you, what brings you to have a session? And some people will say, I'm not really sure.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I need something. And then we would have a conversation just about what's going on for them at the moment. And we would get to what we need to start working with. Or they will be very specific about what they want to work on. Depends on how much experience they've had in the area of healing. So some people really know what they want to work on. Um, and usually we get to whatever it is very fast anyway, because I do read people's energy. So, like you were saying before, you can feel it. Because I've been feeling it my entire life, I've gotten very good at understanding what is in people's fields, what those particular feelings are, and what we need to work on. And sometimes they don't know, but I can see what's actually sitting there for them, and then we'll work towards clearing those things for them. And then, so the beginning of the session, it's like a grounding and connecting. So we have an energy center above the head, which is called the Sun Star, and then an energy center underneath the feet, which is called the Earth Star. And these are like our battery. So this is the positive, and the negative is under the feet. And a lot of people are so stressed and so exhausted just from years of just managing life that these 2 points are where I often start with at the beginning of the session, just to give them a bit of a recharge,
Mm-hmm.
because it's exhausting, when you've just had decades of things happen and you don't get any relief from it. You don't get a rest. You still got to get up and go to work. You still
Yeah.
got to, you know, raise a family or look after parents or whatever it is you do in your community. And, it can be a long-term stress thing. So we start there. And then I will just work wherever I feel the energy is. So, like I said before, when you hold a fork in this energy field around the body, you can actually feel it. It's like a resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like you bring the fork up and it's like, oh, I can feel that. It's like, this is, I'll stay here. And then you'll keep reactivating the fork and just taking it back to that space. And then eventually it will actually reduce and you can just keep moving the fork.
Mm-hmm.
So you know when something's done. And I can feel it in my own body too. So
Mm-hmm.
usually when I'm working with someone, I might feel something in my ear. So I know I'm going to go and work in that area. And that's usually around what they have been hearing about themselves. So whether it's a parent, usually that's where it started, like maybe had a parent just constantly nagging them or not listening, those sort of things. So balancing the energy in
Mm-hmm.
in ears is amazing. because when you grow up hearing a certain thing about yourself, you create that identity then from that. And then you start talking about yourself like that.
Yeah.
And you're hearing yourself. And then
Mm-hmm.
that's in the vestibular system, which is connected up into the brain. So then that creates neural pathways. So to change these neural pathways and these behaviors, coming back down and working in the ear and the energy field can sometimes really help to change those things as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating, honestly, what you can work with and what you find for people and what you shift.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's extraordinary. Yeah, I
Now,
love it. I really love creating these shifts for people. So it's fantastic work. And just
now,
seeing the difference in people, the transformation. Say if I work with someone for 6 weeks or 12 weeks is just amazing. It's
mm,
beautiful to watch. Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, do they feel a difference immediately, and how long do they hold this feeling? Because sometimes you leave a massage or wherever you leave a facial, you feel good when you leave, and it's like, oh, this was so wonderful. How long are they able to hold on to that feeling after they leave?
Yeah. So this is different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have never experienced healing before, usually a few days, and then it peters off. And
Mm-hmm.
then they come back the next week, and it might take a few sessions, but then they hold it consistently
Mm-hmm.
after that. It's
Yeah.
it's like changing this habit, changing the frequency, because
Mm-hmm.
it's been sitting there usually for decades. It
Mm-hmm.
does take a little bit of change, but then once there is that transformation of that vibration, it won't come back unless you're actively going and, you know, putting yourself in these emotional spaces again. It doesn't come back. It might, down the track, some more feelings around that particular experience might come up. But that's because you do your healing and you recalibrate. Like they say, what was that saying? They were saying that, oh, the new normal.
Mm-hmm.
So you're recalibrating and you're changing, and then you're ready to do a bit more healing. So it's a progression.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a few years later, you might be ready to really do a lot deeper healing on that particular experience. So it's not that it's come back, but you're ready to do more healing with that.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have been able to do 3 years ago. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
On the
Yeah.
deeper level. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, so you said like for instance, like if you feel something in the ear, you may work on their ear because of the fact that, they may have been listening to a lot of stuff, that programming that has happened to them throughout the years, and the programming came from their home environment,
Yeah.
from parents nagging them or, pressuring them or whatever, and it started to create this energy within them. And so now you start to clear the energy, and are you communicating with them that this energy was being cleared because it may have been of self-talk and energy, so they're aware of it. So let's say it's the holidays and they go home, and then now they kind of walk back in the same environment that they've been that they have been healing from. Are they aware that these areas you're working with, like, okay, today I'm working on your heart space because there's a lot of stuck and energy here, or I'm working on the ear space because there's a lot of narratives that you're speaking to yourself. Do you communicate that with them as well?
Yes. So it depends on the individual. So I might talk to them during the session, or we may speak about it after. So we'll always have a conversation first.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the session, that depends on the person, because some people just really like to zone out and they don't want to talk in that time. And other people are very keen to know everything. and they
Yeah.
and they want to talk a bit through the session. And either is okay. It
Okay.
doesn't it doesn't really matter. And then via Zoom, it can be different again. We can talk a lot more if they want to, because they're on Zoom, they're not having that physical, in-person experience. So I don't have a rule around that, like don't like to be binary in things and just do what's good for that person on the day. But definitely talking to them about where these things start. So when they do go back to family for holidays and things like that, they're aware of it
Yeah.
and they can then start to make some real life choices in how they're responding, probably taking their tuning fork with them,
Mm-hmm.
and doing that while they're there as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that these relationships can change too with parents. So we may not be working on those things, but it will affect their vibration. So they're not responding in the same way that they used to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it takes two people to have a response.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like this, the same so people are having the same fight for 10 or 30 years. It takes both of them to respond in the same ways each time. And
Mm-hmm.
if one person has changed their vibration and isn't engaging in the same way, there's really nothing for the other person to fight with
Yeah.
or push up against or be resistant to. So
Mm-hmm.
it can change those dynamics. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. And that some people have said to me that the person that they've been distant from for 10 years or something rings them after the session.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had quite a few people say that, like so and so rang me. I haven't spoken to them for
Yeah.
5 years, 10 years, because that vibration that was holding that
Mm-hmm.
resistance between them has changed. And
Exactly.
distance doesn't matter. People can feel change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like when people like, I was just talking about you. Or I was just
Exactly.
you and you showed up. And yeah, so energy is very real. Um
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so in the session with you, like in person, is someone laying on the table? Like is it like a massage table and they're just laying there? And then what's happening? I'm asking, is that how it looks? And then versus how what does it look like in a Zoom call?
Yes. So definitely in person, people are lying on a table and or they can sit in a chair if they can't lie down. So I'll work with people however they need it to be. So if they can't actually physically lie down, they can
Mm-hmm.
sit in a chair. Via Zoom, I am generally doing the session where it's as though they're on my table. So their energy is on my table and I'm working around the table exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Alternatively, I could do a session like we are now, where we're just actually talking about what's going on for you. And then we would do the part where I'm using the tuning fork. I could still sit just here and tune that in this way as well. So there's a lot of different ways that it can be done. Um, I've even done a distance session for somebody where I'm outside and I'm not even near a table or a computer. And we set a time and we both knew that I was going to be doing the session at that time. And I was just outside because that's where I happened to be at the time and was doing a tuning for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So, because there's no boundaries with energy, you can do it in so many different ways. But
Mm-hmm.
usually it would be somebody lying on the table, or I've got their energy on the table. And then I'm finding those emotions in the field and working with the fork from the body out or from the edge of the field in towards the body, depending on how it feels.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
now you were saying multiple times like someone would have it at home and they can tune themselves. So what does it look like if I go online and I order me a tuning fork? What am I doing with myself? And how and I don't think I would be tuning myself for a whole hour. That would be like exhausting. I feel like
No.
trying to do it myself. So what does that look like to just, self tune?
Yes. Okay. So if you went onto our website and you were looking at tuning forks, there's quite a few. So I would say I always recommend just buy one fork to start with, because you buy one, you'll use it. If people buy sets, they get it and then they look at it and get overwhelmed and then they put it in
Yeah.
a drawer. And
Mm-hmm.
I think tuning forks are needed. So buy one, buy a
Mm-hmm.
weighted tuning fork. So like the 174 hertz weighted or the 89 hertz weighted forks. And because that way you can use it on your body and in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So weighted are the ones that you put the end here, you put that on the body like this. So that is the one that I always recommend, is a weighted to start with. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you get that, you would just lightly activate it and then you would put it just in this area here or in the heart or in the solar plexus, which is, just around the rib area, mid rib area, and just hold it there until it runs out. And then once it runs out, you actually feel this feeling of peace.
Mm-hmm.
Then you would reactivate it and do that 3, 6 times. Definitely not an hour, because, like you said, it would be exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
You might take 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and you might take 20 minutes, but
Mm-hmm.
it's really just until you don't feel that stress in the body. And if you have body pain, you can actually put it in that area. Like, say your knee has pain, you just
Mm-hmm.
activate it and put it in that area. You can
Mm-hmm.
just let that dissipate. And then whatever is stressing you, or whatever conversation or whatever it was that brought this stress on, you can just say, I release the stress of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then if there's something like somebody's had a conversation with their mum and that was stressful because it's the same routine of this conversation she's been having with you for 30 years or whatever, you can use the tuning fork and just say, I forgive my mom for doing the best that she can. Because generally speaking, most people are. They may be unconscious in what they're doing and
Mm-hmm.
they think they're doing the right thing. It doesn't mean it is the right thing for you,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the awareness that this is their habit.
Yeah.
And they probably don't even know, let alone know that they could break this habit and
Mm-hmm.
have a better communication with their family. They've been programmed themselves. So if
Mm-hmm.
we have that awareness about people, like they're probably doing their best,
Yeah.
even if that is not flash for me, then that can change that frequency as well. You know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
forgive, I forgive my boss because they're probably doing the best they can, because we don't know their personal life. We don't
Exactly.
know what their finances are like. We don't know what they're happening with their kids or their parents or their health issues or their
Mm-hmm.
marriage or whatever. And they're probably bringing those stresses to work or whatever it is. Most people are doing the best that they can, even when they're really struggling. That's their best,
Yeah.
and it's very healthy to remember that about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So whenever we're going through something, we're doing the best that we can in that actual moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about your whole life, it's that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing my best right now, and sometimes that is merely breathing.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's one breath at a time, and you get through each moment, and then you get through a minute, and then each minute builds and you get through an hour. Every hour builds, you get through a day, and sometimes that is the best that you can do.
Yeah.
And it's really having compassion for yourself and others. Like, I don't think anybody's doing, well, unless they're sociopaths, no one's doing anything to
Yeah.
really harm anyone on purpose.
Exactly.
It can be
Yeah.
jealousy and there can be spite and all of those things, but most of the time people are doing their best.
Exactly. And sometimes they just don't know, know better. It's just this is what they know and this is how they're responding to you. So it's not to always take everything so not saying it's not to take it personal, but like you said, I forgive them for doing the best that they know or that they can.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah. It's so like even if we're not even thinking about someone else and we're using the tuning forks, it's just like you're just having a heaviness and you want to release it. Should you speak words like I am stress free, I feel good? Like, should you speak those type of things to yourself or just be quiet and just ding on yourself? And, like, should you be having a conversation about how you want to feel?
I think that is individual on the day. So some days you'll feel like you're so exhausted you don't even want to speak. So
Mm-hmm.
just use the fork by itself. So
Exactly.
when you're talking about um, how you want to be or what you want to bring about, I would be firstly creating the feeling.
Mm,
So what do you want to feel? Because it might not show up exactly how you want it to.
yeah.
So it's really the feeling of what it is that you want. And for most people, it's the relief from pain,
Mm-hmm.
the suffering that they're feeling, all of those emotions that are sitting in there. So it
Mm-hmm.
could be just breathing it out, could be
Yeah.
the best thing. You might want to say, I want to feel like me.
Yeah.
Because the reason we're stressed is we've been brought up with all these ideas of who we should be, who we shouldn't be,
Mm-hmm.
grandmother thought, whatever it is, the society, the culture,
Yeah.
and we don't get a chance of actually understanding who we are until we start healing those projections and expectations that have been put on us. And then we get to feel who we really are.
Mm-hmm. I want
I know myself that people have always thought of me in particular ways that aren't true.
to.
So, because I was really shy in school, I remember years later somebody saying to me, I thought you were a real snob in school because you didn't talk. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I was just very shy and basically terrified to talk to people,
Yeah.
you know. And I now talk for a living. So, sometimes the things that challenge us the most becomes what we are actually innately good at.
Yeah, yeah. I
It
really.
wasn't that I wasn't good at talking or communicating. I just had fear around other people hearing me
Hmm.
because I was very aware that I was different to everybody else. And I was very aware that my family was different to other families. So I would just sort of really held back on who I was. And
Hmm.
that wasn't because I don't like talking. I love talking.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
exactly.
it's different, the different conditioning. So that was me hiding who I was for fear of being rejected.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so because I've been a sort of more quiet, gentle kind of person, people have sometimes assumed that I can just be walked over,
Yeah.
not treated well because I'm not going to fight back.
Hmm.
And I might not fight back, but I certainly have my own boundaries. You know,
Exactly.
I'm not somebody who's going to start yelling at somebody or be aggressive or, but
Hmm.
I just won't engage in it.
Exactly.
Or, depending on what the situation is, it's not
Hmm.
like I'm a doormat, but, you know, people have this perception of you as well. If you're not a real, because I'm not a real big, forceful energy in that way, that I'm not going to have boundaries, but I do have very good boundaries with certain things. So
Yeah, it
it's
sounds like
other
you're very
people's
grounded.
perception.
Yes,
Yeah,
it sounds like you're very grounded, which is very important because with you being grounded, you're able to, work it, able to, like you said, have those boundaries up because even though the person that may yell and make a lot of noise, it don't mean that they're winning the battle.
no.
So, you know. They just making noise. But even though you may be quiet, you're still probably winning the battle because of the fact that you seem to have a strong groundedness to you.
Yes, yes. So it's most of it is because I've done a lot of work on myself too. I used to be more reactive to people because I could feel so many things that I would be more emotional about things, but I can be more observant now. And it
Mm-hmm.
is that big lesson of understanding people are just doing their best,
Yeah,
even if they are having a meltdown or like at the moment, that's all they can do. And it was really healing myself, but like my relationship with my mum, that was the biggest part, was my biggest teacher in seeing that she was the way she was because of all these other things that happened in her life.
mm-hmm.
And it's very understandable that she was the way she was. And she was a beautiful human, but I didn't get some of the things that I needed.
Yeah,
Like I was saying before, it's not that somebody's, not a loving, kind-hearted person, but they don't know how to give you what you need because they're not even aware that that's a thing, you know. So
exactly.
a lot of my work has been on myself and really understanding that relationship. And two, growing older myself, understanding when you're young, you think life is this or this, and as you get older, you realize it's just such a spectrum and a kaleidoscope. And, you have a lot more compassion for things because you can see, because I've lived this long now, I can understand things don't always go that way and how people might react or respond to things. So, yeah, it's like the more you live, I think the more compassion you can have because you
Exactly.
really understand life a lot more. And
Mm-hmm.
it can be very simple, but it can be very complex uh, if you're not letting these things go and you're not having compassion and changing your own perspectives and your own thoughts and beliefs and just being I think a lot easier on yourself too makes such a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I, I agree, definitely. So, with the going back to the tuning forks,
Mm.
I know that you said there were different hertz. Um,
Yes.
okay, so what hurt, like, are there like a listing of like this hurt is for the heart chakra and this hurts is for this and this hurts is for that? How does a person decide on what hurts to get for themselves?
Okay, so yes, there are just so many different frequencies of tuning forks, and they can be for specific things, like you said. So the 174 hertz that I mentioned earlier, I do recommend for people because whether it's weighted or unweighted, because it helps with body pain. And that is something that a lot of people have because of the stress that's held in the body. And that can be used anywhere in the field. Like I said, starting with one fork is really good. And
Mm-hmm.
then just use it anywhere on the body, anywhere in the field. And even if it was a heart chakra fork, if you used it on your foot, that would be okay.
Yeah.
Because the pain in the foot is probably related to the pain in the heart somehow. So, um, yes, I would start with weighted, a 174, an 89 hertz. Um, any of those is actually going to work really well for you. Uh, you don't need to get too complicated about it and think, oh, I need this fork for this and this and this.
Mm-hmm.
Start with one, and then if you love it, then start to expand, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and create a collection if you want to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
I would just get a fork and start using it
Yeah.
and probably not overthink it too much
Yeah.
because that's where people then start to get confused and then they don't use it. So just using the one,
Mm-hmm.
even writing down what it is you want to change. and
Yeah.
have that as your intention. Your
Mm-hmm.
intention is another key part of how this works. Because really, when you're wanting to work on something, you're wanting to improve your life somehow, whether it's your communications or your finances or your connections or your career, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
you're wanting to make this change. So being very intentional about what it is that you want. It's like you can see it over here, and there's this emotion that might be blocking it, say here,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just sort of working your way through that energetic block,
Yeah.
which is mindset. Usually it's a belief and
Mm-hmm.
it's just a habit,
Yeah.
you know, and you've usually inherited that from family
Mm-hmm.
because you grow up hearing these things and then you start believing them, and then you create your reality from that, and then you just keep going along that line of that's the way it is.
Yeah. A lot of times we become products of the environment that we're in. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So you said just start off simple, don't make it too complex. So when you start to see all of these options, oh, 528, you can
Yeah.
now just question with the hurts, like the higher it gets, does it mean it's getting stronger? What does it mean when it keeps going higher?
Okay, so the higher, so a 528 is like a really high sort of pitch. But if you're going for like an 89, that's lower. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a deeper you, and with those you don't really hear them much,
Okay,
especially
the
with
lower ones you
weights.
don't hear much.
Yeah,
You
the low
just
ones you
feel
don't hear
you
as
don't
much.
you just feel the vibration.
Yeah. So you will hear it when you activate it, but then
Mm-hmm.
after a little bit, you won't necessarily hear it, but you'll still feel the vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And that really depends on what you like. So I really love those lower ones. The higher, they're very good in particular ways for healing, and I do use them. But my personal preferences are like the 174, the 144. I really love the 144, or the 89 hertz. I really like those because I like drum beats and I like, gongs, and I like those kind
Yeah.
of vibrations more than something that's really high. So for me, that really resonates, that deep beat kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So that's what I like to use. But
Mm-hmm.
then it's individual. Some people really love the 528. And I do really like that for some things, but my preference would be an 89 or a 144. So depends on the person, like they might like um, an 852. And that's actually a really nice fork too. I really like that one.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the fork then, you know,
Yeah. Well,
what
so
you
that's good to know that it's
yeah,
like the lower ones is like, the deeper sound, like you said, the drum beats and then going up, it's like a higher pitch sound. So good to know. So when a person's listening to this, that they can make this, well, like, oh, I'm not really crazy about drum beats. Maybe I want me a high pitch,
yeah,
glass
exactly.
breaking sound. Typeness. So just
Yeah.
so we have the awareness of it, so when we're making those decisions around it as well too. Now, with this is sound therapy. Now, the crystal singing bowls are also considered sound therapy as well too. Could you combine the two, like with your, as well, or would you just keep those two in its separate entities?
You could use them together. I would definitely, when you're using a crystal bowl, they can be really quite delicate. So I'd be careful. Like when you use bowls, you do have to have a certain distance between them
Mm-hmm.
because if they're too close, sometimes they can crack.
Yeah.
So same with a tuning fork. You'd want to be careful that you're not cracking a bowl with a fork
Okay.
either. So
Yeah.
it can happen if a bowl is really delicate, because some of them are really quite thin.
Mm-hmm.
They're still made out of beautiful crystals, but they're not. Some are thicker,
Mm-hmm.
but some people have broken crystal instruments when they're too close together. Somebody had a crystal bowl with a crystal pyramid, and the pyramid broke because it was
Mm-hmm.
too close to the bowl.
Yeah.
So, you like when we do sessions, you could use a bowl and a fork, but you generally be putting one instrument down and then going to the other and then
Yeah.
coming back. You
Mm-hmm.
don't usually use them at the same time unless you were putting a fork on somebody's body, and then you could lean over and do the bowl at the same
Yeah.
time. You might do that, but generally speaking, you don't use them at the same time, only
Well,
because it's a little bit complicated
yeah,
to.
yeah. Maybe I meant more like in the same like type session.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So now the bowls are known to heal you on a cellular level. Would you say that the tuning forks are here to heal you on the cellular level as well too?
Absolutely. Yes, it's the same. So
Mm-hmm.
the difference with these instruments is the singing bowls are more, you can hear them. They're a bigger sound.
Yeah.
And it's like they're giving you a hug. You can
Yeah.
hear it, it's all around you. Whereas tuning forks, you don't hear them as much, but they're more like a laser focus than a hug. That's kind of like the difference between them.
Yeah. So the
So,
tuning forks are more individual, where the singing bowl could be for a group session.
well, you could actually use forks for group sessions as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've
Even though they may
used
not
forks
hear it.
in groups. Yes. So a fork is, if you can imagine, I'll just get this one. So you can imagine like the frequency, because it's not a big instrument and you're not hearing it, it's almost like this, is like it's really targeted towards something
Mm-hmm.
rather than creating that big sound.
Okay.
Yeah. Does
Now,
that make sense?
yeah, it does. It
Yeah.
looks like a laser focus, like you're shooting
Yeah.
at something in particular.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Now, with the tuning fork, does it do like are you supposed to charge your crystals with it or anything else as well with it? Or it's just there to like work on healing the body on a cellular level and you know, on a deeper level? Or is
So
it
you
there
can
for like, you know, oh, I want to tune my green juice or I want to tune my crystals. Like, can you do that as well too?
absolutely. Yes. Yes. So you can actually put crystals with the tuning forks. We actually have little boots that go on the end, and that's so there's a bigger space. And some of those actually have crystals in them. And
Mhm.
so that can actually go on the body with the crystal and the vibration. If you
Okay.
don't have a boot, you can actually put a crystal on the body and then just put the tuning fork on the crystal, and you'll feel it. And the tuning fork will amplify the properties of the crystal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what goes into the body then as well. So you're getting both the vibration, the frequency, and those properties of the crystal as well. You can definitely use it for charging your water, your
Mm-hmm.
juice, your food. You can do space clearings with them, so you can move the energy in your house as well,
Mm-hmm.
which is really quite amazing. So if anybody's going to do that, I would really recommend make sure you use the fork and go in your corners of your rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Really important. And stairs. So if you've got stairs going up to the property or internal, it's
Mm-hmm.
always good to like just hold it above each step and like because how people feel when they arrive home or when they're leaving
Mm-hmm.
can stay on stairs.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah,
you have
I
you
did a
have
space clearing years ago, and I got to this set of stairs and I was like, oh my goodness, whose room is that? Because whatever they're walking up these stairs and going in there, and they're not happy. And
Mm.
it was the teenager boy of the house, like stomping up the stairs, really angry, slamming the door shut, and that energy was sitting in the stairs.
Wow.
And
Mm.
then one after doing the space clearing, because the parents were selling the house, it just sold really quick
Wow.
because it was
Okay.
clearing the energy in the house. So if you want to sell your house, anyone who's listening, get a tuning fork and tune your house, do some space clearing.
Amazing. Okay, so where's some resource guides where okay, someone goes ahead, they get their tuning fork and it's like, okay, what do I do with this? Can you suggest any resource guides on what to do, and or is there any wrong way to tune? Like, Matt, because sometimes I'm just working with my energy and just tuning, but like, are there any wrong ways, or you just kind of move through your energy?
Yeah, there's no really wrong way to do it. You
Mm.
can't get it wrong. You don't generally overtune yourself. I mean, you wouldn't be doing it for hours. That would be exhausting. You
Yeah.
know, try 5 minutes to start with. We have we have some YouTube videos. I do have some workshops that are on the website that people can tune into. So we do a free workshop every month on the first Wednesday. And I do a tuning for people, but if they have their own tuning fork at home, they can be doing that along with the workshop as well. And
Okay.
they're all recorded. So anybody listening can go in there and do these. These are all free
Oh,
access
nice.
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see how then when I'm talking, you could be using your tuning fork at the same time. And especially because they're recorded, because you can watch it and say your affirmations or your intentions
Mm-hmm.
along with it as well. And it just helps you to understand how you can shift energy as well, and the different ways in which you could use a tuning fork, because people can re-watch these things and go through and do another tuning again, and then you might come back a week later and go, actually, I want to do a little bit more on that again, and do it again. And we have free audios and all of these sort of things as well that can help people. So as a first thing, I would just say get your tuning fork and just activate it and put it where you feel the pain,
Okay.
up to about 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something emotional, activate the fork and just hold it and just say what you need to say.
Okay.
So, one of the biggest things is actually speaking and getting it out of the body. It's not necessarily sharing it with anybody. It's not about going to therapy or even talking to the person that you have the issue with, is
Mm-hmm.
not always helpful.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just about getting it out.
Just
So,
getting.
really big transformation I saw with somebody was they had so much trauma, they could barely speak.
Mm-hmm.
So my suggestion was just talk when you're by yourself, when you feel safe, and there's no one around it, and just say what you need to say. And this person now looks like a completely different person. This is quite a few years ago now, but they are actually a very happy person. They're smiling. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the transformation was amazing, and it was just by being able to say
Release.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just release it. And when you have therapy, sometimes people, don't feel like they're getting anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just get it out of the body without worrying about what the other person's going to be thinking.
Yeah.
So I know even people with therapy are still thinking about how they're going to be perceived.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
especially if it's something that there's shame around, like they have feelings of shame, it
Mm-hmm.
can sometimes be really difficult to, talk about it because they still feel it every time they say it. But if there's
Yeah.
no one there looking at you when you think you're being judged,
Yeah.
that might help.
Yeah, it's more
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So much information. So much. And I know it's a lot of new information for many of us. So I thank you for showing up in this way. Is there anything we didn't touch base on in reference to the tuning forks that you feel like we should know about them?
Okay.
Well, did we cover everything?
Oh, what else could I say? What else could we do? Um,
Well, when you said you were activating,
yeah.
is there another tool that hits it?
Yes, so we have these rubber activators, and you just gently tap it on the edge. So I actually have a YouTube video that shows how to do that,
Okay.
and how to activate it. So that's just, under our BIOFIELD Being YouTube page. So
Okay.
there's some videos in there and some of those workshops, and you can connect into how to actually activate a tuning fork.
Mhm.
um, I always say to people, if they've bought a fork from us, they can always email and just ask any questions too. If we haven't covered it or you're not sure, um, people can always get in contact. But I would say write down what it is that you want to change,
Mhm.
feel what the change is, activate the fork, and just really bringing that energy like a magnet towards you. The
Mm.
things that you want towards you rather than those energies of those things that you haven't wanted.
I like that you said magnet because it does look like a magnet.
Yeah,
Walk. It looks like, the a magnet.
it
So
does, doesn't it?
it
Yeah.
does look like a magnet. If it had like the red pieces on it. But yeah, it looks like a magnet. And I like that you also said to, know and feel what you want. And I think with that, also being mindful to eliminate the thoughts that you don't want. So don't be in the energy of like, I can't stand my life. I hurt so bad, like I'm
Yeah.
assuming you should like let go of all the negative running thoughts that may be happening or lower vibrational thoughts that may be running, and hold grace for yourself, because I think a lot of us are holding those same thoughts. We're thinking these thoughts and
Yes.
we don't even realize we're thinking them, but to just be mindful on like, what am I thinking in this very moment? And do I need to shift that thought so I'm not pulling in the same old vibration that I'm trying to rid of in this healing process, and to think that let me shift the energy. So just having mindfulness, it sounds like having mindfulness around that. And I love that you said to feel, not to just think, but to also feel it, make it yours, and you make it yours by feeling it. But
Yes.
so that was very informative information.
That's that's really good that you say that, because the way to change the thoughts can also be, when they come, these thought loops, think of them as another person. And if someone showed up to your door every day and knocked on it and you opened it and they said, "You're really horrible at this. You really should do this. Why haven't you done that?" You eventually would not open your door to that person, because
Mhm.
you don't want that in your life. So it's like seeing that thought as another person saying, "No, you can't
You're
come
not
in
welcome.
here anymore. This
Mhm.
is not, no, this is not my thought. This is not mine. No, you can't come here anymore." And it really, that's one of the ways in which I changed things for myself, was
Mhm.
stopping these negative thought loops and just like,
Yeah.
no, no, you just don't get to come here anymore. I don't want to think this. And
Mhm.
then purposefully start thinking about something else,
Yeah.
and like trying to, no, you can't come here anymore. And then I remember one day after doing meditation,
Mhm.
I had this energy in the back of my head. I could feel it. And then it's like it left. And all these thought loops that I'd had were gone.
Mm.
And I couldn't even tell you what they were anymore, but they were like this recurring rat wheel of, probably you're not good enough or whatever it was.
Yeah.
and they left. So it really is about changing your vibration.
Yeah. And being mindful that they're even happening. Because if they've been happening for decades, you don't even know that this is, you're unaware that these have been the running conversation in your mind. So have that mindfulness, have those moments with yourself and be like, hey, did I just call myself fat? Or did I just call myself this? Or, just being mindful of like, wait a minute, I need to stop that. That's not the way I want to speak to myself, because if someone else spoke to me that way, I would not accept it. So,
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And they're things that we've been trained to do. They're behaviors that we picked up from someone else, from a parent, because they were unconscious of what they were doing, because they were raised unconsciously too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now we're becoming more conscious. It's that understanding and compassion that they just didn't know any better.
Yeah. We're coming
I
into it.
do.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the change, and have compassion for yourself too, because you didn't know until you knew.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
don't know until you know. And then when you know, you can make the change.
Exactly. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. So wonderful. So much great information, about tuning forks, and even more, just around awareness and the conversations. Like, it's just, this episode is so much deeper than the tuning forks. It's
Yes.
definitely on the level of healing. So I thank you for showing up in this way for me, for the
Oh,
Becoming Unique podcast. But before I let you go, I would love for you to tell us, what does becoming unique mean to you?
oh, well, that is everything that we have been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So it when I was 18, my first conscious realization of an inherited emotion, an inherited behavior, was when I was feeling really uncomfortable in a situation. And I had this response that was my mum's response that I didn't even like. And I did the same thing. And I was so mortified with myself. I'd only just turned 18, and I thought, oh, I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be really conscious of, what I'm doing. And
Mm-hmm.
that really set me on my path of what I do now.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really healing these inherited emotions and ways of being, and becoming more aware and more aware and more aware, and
Mm-hmm.
making these changes, because then that's when we become ourselves. And
Exactly.
that's what uniqueness is for me.
Mm-hmm.
And where, like I said, in the past, I felt like I had to hide that
Mm-hmm.
uniqueness. Now I'm so very thankful for all of my upbringing, for all of those things, because it's brought me to a point of awareness where I can start being more myself. And I'm still doing it. And I don't think I'll ever stop, because
Yeah.
I actually really enjoy it. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the new discoveries and the healing and the letting go, and then becoming more aware of something else and healing that and letting it go.
Yeah.
So that's what the uniqueness is for me. It's this way of being,
Yeah. Beautiful.
and really being okay with who you are,
Yeah. Yeah.
which can be quite a journey, quite a path to go down.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Being, and yeah, and just being aware of that. So, so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I appreciate you, and I appreciate how you're showing up in this world for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate talking to you. It's been lovely.
Yeah, same here.